Hi friends, it's Chase Porter and welcome to the New Age Comics Podcast. Oh god, I think I just shook the table. Guess what time it is? That is my opening hook, as we call it in the podcast biz. No, I'm kidding. I'm not affiliated with any kind of podcast business, but it is 1:50 in the morning right now. For those of you who have been following me for a while and follow me on Twitter specifically, this should not be a surprise. I have done way later. I have done 3 a.m. recordings a couple times, actually. So as far as I'm concerned, this is actually fairly early for me to be doing a recording. However, just because I am saying early does not mean that I am saying promptly, because it is Tuesday as I'm recording this. It is 2 hours into the day of twos, and that's not very prompt at all. These are old books. And the thing is, the kicker is, I uploaded the last week's episode very promptly, like on the 8th or something like crazy like that. And now it's the 15th. So it feels as though I've gone a super long time without uploading an episode. However, I am not actually behind at all. So I am happy that you guys are joining me here today to talk about some comic books. Clearly my day has been a hectic mess. I had too much caffeine, nearly had a panic attack on the way in here because it's super late in the morning and I record in a building on my campus. And I confronted the custodian, who seemed to be caught off guard that I was here, and I was caught off guard that he was actually next to the podcast studio. So that was a fun little loop that we both got thrown through. But yeah, this table is shaking. I'm actually going to repair that really quickly before I get into the festivities today. Oh, shit. Okay, I think I just solved the shaking table at the cost of, I think I just pulled my forearm doing that. And I just fixed it in the grossest possible way. I literally just took a bunch of paper towels and stuffed them under the leg that wasn't making contact. So it looks really gross. But hey, that's me wobbling the table, and maybe you could hear that, maybe you couldn't. I guess I will find out on the recording. So this intro has been very long, but thank you guys for joining me. And what do we do here? We are talking about comic books that came out on December 9th, a good while ago, almost a week ago. If you are new here, this show is broken down into, I guess, like 3 kind of parts. I'm going to talk about some topical comic news, and I got a doozy for today. And then I'm going to get into the books that did not make the top 5, the books that sucked. No, they didn't suck. I usually like most of them. And then I'm going to talk about my top 5 books of the week. Huzzah! And then lastly, we'll talk about what's coming out next week. But if you like what I do here on the show, you can follow me over on Twitter at New Age Comics Pod, or wherever you're listening to this podcast episode, Podular Broadcast. Or if you're on YouTube, you can like and subscribe and do all that fun shit. And I always give a final spoiler warning for everything that I talk about in this episode, because I like to talk about the nitty-gritty of every book. So I always spoil them all. Sorry. And, you've had ample time. I'm pretty much getting this in last minute. So if you haven't read books from this last week, you're behind, my friend. So catch up. Then you can come back and listen, and we can nerd out together. But without further ado, let's get into some of the topical comic thingies going on.
Now look, I want the real story.
I'm super excited for this one. Gosh, you can tell how tired I am. But you all probably know what I'm going to be talking about here. Marvel Phase 5. Phase 5 has been slated. Holy fuck. Yeah, I didn't even really write a lot of notes for this one. I just have the iconic image of all the releases in front of me right now. So I'm pretty much just going to be riffing here. But yeah, holy shit. All of Phase 5 got kind of announced. We got like loose dates on all of them. I'm pretty sure most of them got like years. Maybe some of them got like seasons, like winter 2029 or whenever. But oh my God, lots of shows. This like grid that I'm looking at is 24 little panels. So let's go through them. Lots of shows. Some of these have already been announced, shows and movies, I should say. So I'm going to start with some of the stuff that already has been announced, starting with some of the shows. So we got to see a trailer for The Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we learned a couple details about it. Obviously, who all is going to be reprising their roles, and not only that, but it's going to be they described it as like a movie. I guess they said it was a movie broken up into 6 parts, not a show, which, I mean, maybe we're splitting hairs there, but I think what Kevin Feige was trying to say, or Feige, that they are elevating the production to movie status, I guess. Maybe it's different from show status. I figured it was Marvel status. But moving on, we also got WandaVision. Obviously, that's actually slated to come out in a month. Oh my gosh, January 14th. It's coming out in exactly 1 month. So already excited for WandaVision. We got to see a trailer for Loki. Loki was already announced, and we got to see the trailer. It looked fucking cool as hell. I was really digging the Loki trailer. I think it kind of threw everyone for a big loop as to what it was going to be about. I like that they kind of picked right up where they left off in Endgame, and it looks like they're going to be, very cop, like cop, Men in Black almost. But I think that's such a perfect, little role for Loki. He's just so fun like that. Jesus, I'm getting hot in here. This room I recorded in never has the AC on, so it's like 80 degrees in here right now. I'm surrounded by foam, so it's just boiling. But we also got to see some pictures of the new Hawkeye series that's coming out. If you know me and you've been listening, you know that I love Hawkeye, and I'm very excited for this new show. It's going to be fucking awesome. It's clearly adapting the Matt Fraction, David Aja run, which is the best run. Then we also got to see a trailer for the new Miss Marvel show. I actually forgot Miss Marvel was getting a show. That's pretty crazy. We're getting a lot of these like new heroes adapted into the MCU, which, has its, I guess, like pluses and minuses, you could say. But, it's interesting. And I think Miss Marvel is a perfect like MCU character, if you will. She was just really, I feel like, just in her inception, built really well for a live action rendition. And so we got to see the trailer for that. It looked pretty cool. And then 2 shows that we did not actually get to see a whole lot about, but I believe they just kind of commented on them, were She-Hulk, which looks pretty cool from what we know about it. I guess we pretty much know that Mark Ruffalo is going to be reprising his role as Hulk in it. And I think that's kind of it. And we know the casting for She-Hulk. I do not remember her name. I think I heard she is literally 7 feet tall, like her actress. I don't know if that's true. I might be fake newsing here. I hope I'm not. We're all waiting for me to come to, obviously, this show, Moon Knight, my favorite show. I'm wearing the Moon Knight shirt right now as I record this. But yes, there's a Moon Knight show that is coming out. They have announced it. They have announced Oscar Isaac. Poe Dameron will be playing the titular, I don't even know what titular means, but the titular Mark Spector. And I'm super pumped for that. They didn't show anything for the show, but I think they said that it was going to, I believe, include a lot of like Egyptian culture, which, I mean, hey, canon to the comics. I'm all here for that. So as far as shows go, nothing new was announced, but we did get to see trailers that were new. They were all really cool, so definitely go check those out if you did not catch those. But there were also some movies that they had already announced that they mentioned again here. They mentioned the Black Widow movie that's been delayed, unfortunately, but they pretty much confirmed that it is coming out. Then they also talked about the Eternals, and they showed some castings for that. They have not shown a trailer for that yet, which I am very anxiously awaiting the trailer. I want that to drop as soon as possible. But they also did pretty much the same business with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Just talked about some castings. I don't think they really showed anything, unfortunately. But I'm very excited for the new Shang-Chi movie. Next, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. They did announce this movie already, but I think this was confirmed this last weekend, was that Sam Raimi, the director of the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy, will be directing Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. So it's going to include lots of, multiversal shit. I guess so. And there's some fan theories. I might get into those in a little bit. But moving on, we also have Thor, Love and Thunder, which was already confirmed. And they pretty much did the Shang-Chi Eternals treatment, just showed the castings, talked about it, pretty much gave it the big nod. The director of Thor Ragnarok will be directing this movie. Then same deal for Blade. I'm making it sound uneventful, but it was pretty cool just to kind of get these solidified in stone. I mean, they already kind of were, but to get Kevin Feige just talking about them candidly was very cool to see. But they confirmed that the actor who played Cottonmouth in the Luke Cage Netflix series, I do not have his name present, but he will be playing Blade, the perfect cast, if I do say so myself, other than the fact that he already exists in some Marvel canon that should be canon. But I'm not going to get into all of that. And then some sequels that were announced. I did not know these were getting sequels officially yet, but Black Panther and Captain Marvel are both getting a number 2 slapped next to them. And they did officialize the fact that they will not be recasting Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. I think everyone's pretty much okay with that at this point, but we're all sort of on the edge of our seats, wondering how they're going to play this off. But then they also confirmed that Miss Marvel will be appearing in Captain Marvel 2 alongside of Monica Rambeau, who's going to be appearing in the WandaVision TV show. And I mean, there you go. That's pretty much all the Captain Marvels outside of the OG Captain Marvel, which I think was in the first Captain Marvel movie. I don't know. I haven't brushed up on it in a while. But those are pretty much all the things that had already been announced. I did miss one thing, though. There is that What If animated show. They did show a trailer for that, which I was very into. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But okay, I've buried the lead far too long, and this segment is probably going on far too long as is. They did announce a few new movies that we did not know were dropping, okay? This one's drawn some controversy, but Ironheart is getting a film. You guys know Ironheart, Riri Williams. She's in the comics. She is like Tony Stark's protege. Some people were theorizing about this, back when Tony died in Endgame. Obviously, who's going to pick up the mantle of Tony Stark? I, for one, did not think they would rush Riri Williams into the MCU. I figured they would just give her a little more time in the comics before trying to adapt her. But hey, I mean, I trust Kevin Feige and all that he has going on in that glorious brain of his. And in the same vein of Iron stuff, we are also getting an Armor Wars movie. That was very surprising to me as well. I know of Armor Wars. It's an older Iron Man arc back in the day. I have not read it. I know it involves James Rhodey to some extent, and I believe this Armor Wars movie is going to involve James Rhodey to a larger extent. But that's pretty much it. That's kind of nuts. I wasn't expecting a lot of Iron Man-centric content to come out. But I think it's cool that they are putting it out. Then a third trilogizing. They are trilogizing. I don't really know how to put this, but Ant-Man and Wasp, Quantum Mania. Ant-Man and Wasp 3, so Ant-Man 3 kind of, has been confirmed. Quantumania, that sounds pretty cool. I did not care for Ant-Man and Wasp, so let's hope that the third one picks it back up, because the first movie is actually very good. But okay, on to the two big things that everybody is talking about. I have buried the lead far too long, okay? Marvel has announced that we will be receiving a Fantastic Four film. So, okay, that's amazing. Fantastic Four. It's just so crazy to see them actually confirmed for an MCU movie. It's like something at least I did not think was frankly going to happen. I'm sure a lot of you know about this whole rights debacle that has been going on for like the past fucking decade. And I just never thought we'd get to see Fantastic Four in the MCU. But hey, I mean, it's confirmed and it's coming. They did not announce castings, but casting, like fan casting, is going nuts right now. And then this actually surprised me even a little more than that, but I saw it coming. Secret Invasion. This is going to be, I believe, the 5th Avengers movie, quote unquote. That movie that's going to bring everyone together. I think, who's to say? Maybe I have some details wrong here. But that is my hunch. They set up the Skrulls to kind of be in contact with Earth since the 90s, which is when the first Captain Marvel movie took place. And so I saw this coming a little bit from a mile away. But that being said, it's still very exciting. I have not read Secret Invasion yet. It is on my list, don't get me wrong. But yes, these are all of the MCU Phase 5 things. Woohoo! I went on very long about this, but I am super excited about almost all of these things. And yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in the MCU. So we're in for a good one, guys. Alrighty, let's go from talking about a big cluster of cool things to talk about a big cluster of meh things. Now, I always dog on these books, but I generally like most of them. However, I'm going to be kicking off this rapid fire review round with a couple little ranty reviews. So first off, I got to talk about King in Black tie-in Namor issue number 1. I tweeted about this to much controversy. No, I'm blowing smoke in my own ass over here. I didn't really tweet about to much controversy. However, I voiced my opinions on Twitter. I did not care for this book. I feel that it just had nothing to do with the event. It did not have much to hook me in on a Namor story. And weirdly enough, the writer of this comic responded to me on Twitter to my critiques. But he was a very good sport about it and said, we're doing what we wanted to and we're having fun. And so all respect to that. However, I don't know if I'll be picking up the next issue of this book. We will have to see once King in Black 2 comes out. That might inform my opinion. I also picked up this fat honkin' Dark Knight's Death Metal, The Last Stories of the DC Universe, issue number 1, the longest title ever, and a really long book. This book was okay to me. I think I had said this about the last Dark Knight's Death Metal tie-in, that it felt like the most inconsequential of the bunch. Like, you could have skipped it and you wouldn't really miss anything. That's kind of how I feel about this one. Maybe that was kind of sold very clearly by the title. Like, this was obviously going to just be about the last, night on Earth for a lot of our heroes. But I don't know, that concept sounded cooler to me than I think it was executed. It's one of those things where there's like 6 different stories. The only ones that I actually really liked were the Green Lantern Hal Jordan story. I loved that story a lot. I need to text my friend who loves Green Lantern about it. But I also really liked the Superman story at the end here, written by Mark Waid. I think it's fueling a lot of the fan theory about, hey, is Mark Waid going to be hopping onto the Superman mythos? But yeah, that's how I feel about this book. We're out of rant review territory. If you could call those rants. But I also grabbed S.W.O.R.D issue number 1. Or should I say S.W.O.R.D? No, I'm kidding. But this book was cool. I really liked the art here. It was Shahidi did the art. And it's just some breathtaking pages of space. However, the story was really fucking confusing. I liked Magneto in it, but the story was so confusing. I'm going to get the next issue because it's tying into King in Black. So I'm probably going to follow it through to the end of the King in Black tie-ins and see how I'm feeling about it. But I'm kind of feeling mixed on the first. I'm still trucking on this Ultraman series, and I'm at issue number 4, and it's getting pretty fun. There's some more kaiju fighting, and we do get to see some fat kaiju punches. And at the end, they tease a big-ass kaiju coming in the next issue. I wish we would have gotten to the kaiju fighting a little quicker, but I'm still pumped for the 5th issue here. Speaking of 5-part miniseries that are on the 4th issue, I picked up Juggernaut issue number 4, and I liked this issue quite a bit. This maybe was the honorable mention to my honorable mention's honorable mention, if that makes sense. I liked a lot of the comics from this week, but this Juggernaut issue was a lot of fun. You get some good like Sidorak stuff within this book, getting into the lore of Kane. And so that was really cool just to get deep and dirty with it. And yay, penultimate issue. Same with that Ultraman. Penultimate issues all around. An issue that I'm surprised actually didn't make it into my top 5. It's kind of one of those ones that always make it up into there. But Detective Comics 1032. I still liked this book a lot. It's continuing the whole Hush Damian Wayne black casebook stuff. But there actually wasn't a whole lot of Hush confrontation in this book. And I feel like that would have pushed it over the top for me. So the next issue will probably shoot up there. And for my honorable mention of this week, I'm throwing it to Batman Black and White issue number 1. If you listen to my Wolverine Black and White and Blood review, you know I probably was going to be a sucker for this book. And I truly was. You know, it's getting the honorable mention because it's one of those anthology books and not all the stories slapped. However, there were some pretty good slappers in here. Obviously, the first story is by Tradd Moore. How am I not going to love that? Jesus Christ. What an amazing story. The second story was pretty good. I think it was written and drawn by the same guy. Did not hate it. Then the Adam Kubert or Andy Kubert, my comic credibility is evaporating. The Andy Kubert story in the middle of this book was very good. Definitely throwing back to his first, arc on Batman. And I liked the poem story. It was a little eccentric, but I did like it. And then the Greg Smallwood story at the end was amazing, which was written by G. Willow Wilson. And so I liked about 3 out of the 5 stories here, which is a pretty good percentage. So definitely honorably mentioned. All right, bam, we're done with all those weaker books. No, they're all good, but we're on to the goodest of the week here with the top 5. And for number 5, I am throwing this one too. Avengers issue number 39. It's been a while since I've had an Avengers book in my top 5. I'm very excited. Obviously, Avengers is written by Jason Aaron in his huge run. And this issue has pencils by Dale Keown and colors by Jason Keith. Yes, the Aaron Avengers run. It's been a tad rocky lately. Like I was kind of saying, I did not care for the last arc, which was the Moon Knight arc. Surprisingly, I did not care for that. But we are getting a standalone issue here. And if you've been reading this Avengers series since the beginning, you recognize these standalones because they're throwing us back about 1 million years to the BC Avengers, And they've all been like a one-shot about one of the members specifically, and I've loved all the one-shots so far. Here, we're getting the origin story of the prehistoric Phoenix, I guess you could say, the wielder of the Phoenix Force. They don't give her a name. You can't really say, the prehistoric Jean Grey. But it's a similar fashion to those one-shots for the Ghost Rider, for the Iron Fist, and I believe for the Star brand. And I have to say, I thought this was a pretty solid addition to this prehistoric mythos. I guess if you can call it that, I think it is getting its own universe number on the Marvel Nerd website. But really, I thought this was a solid and compelling and really fun solo story. And I like it so much because you can just read it by itself. I could hand this issue to one of my friends who hasn't been reading Avengers this whole time. And he would still be like, whoa, that was a pretty dope story. And I think that quality is specifically notable here because this is issue number 39. Let's remember that. So I think it's pretty cool that Aaron's still comfortable being like, hey, here's a one shot. But then getting into the issue here, her birth story, that's kind of where this book picks up with this girl just in this pile of bones. And it's a fucking metal ass like origin story, if that's what you could call it. She's almost like pecked to death by vultures. I guess not even pecked to death, but they were preying on her. And this pack of wolves comes by and saves her and inevitably raises her. So it's the whole like almost joke of raised by wolves. But that's what happens to our first Phoenix Force wielder here. And what I love that Aaron does with these prehistoric stories so much is that he finds ways to make it still really relatable and make the characters really relatable, which is so shocking, right? Because it's literally prehistoric characters. We could not have more differences with some of the characters in these books, but that's what Aaron does. He makes them experience really human emotions. I believe in the Ghost Rider one, he lost his family, right? And in this one, our main character, she is kind of wondering what it is like, her history, I guess. She's seeking answers for why she was abandoned from her tribe at birth, right? Why she was raised by wolves, and just in general giving her this like sense of loneliness and seclusion in the world. So it's like instantly, even me as an adult male can relate to this child girl. And not only that, but it's 1 million years ago. And I thought that was just proof of Aaron's writing prowess. And cool thing, as that progresses, we get a little Easter egg of the girl going back to this place where she was found at birth, and she finds a young Cyclops baby boy, and like a literal Cyclops, like he literally only has one eye. Obviously, that's some nuance, right? Because our Phoenix, Jean Grey, is, with the Cyclops, X-Man. And then she also, while there, like, finds the secret tribe of apparently just people that have been powered up to some degree. Maybe they're mutants. Maybe they're a part of this, like, if you remember the first arc of this Aaron's run, it had the proto-generator, which, like, spawned, like, super abilities on the planet. But our main character meets this, like, telepathic dude as well, kind of resembling Charles Xavier, because this guy is more of a guide to her than anything. But like any book, of course, it had to approach tragedy. And of course it does. All of the mutant tribe that she ends up assimilating herself into gets slaughtered by this tribe of essentially troglodytes that come into their cave. And of course, the troglodytes get counter-slaughtered. And so our main character walks out into this like horror scene, and it's just so horribly traumatic for her and for us as the reader. And there actually comes a really dark line, which I was like, okay, damn, Aaron. The girl, as she walks through this like just horror scene, she asks herself if she could commit suicide via her thought, because she's kind of awakening her telepath abilities at this point. Which I have never heard of that before in an X-Men comic. Maybe that's like a popular X-Men trope with some of the telepaths, so it should not have floored me the way it did. But especially in the context of a child, I was just like, oh my goodness, we got real dark here. But this could all be said to be symbolic, because our main character lays down back in her birthplace, and this is the resurrection or the awakening of the Phoenix here. And it's quite epic, right? Like the flames burst everywhere. She, is doing the levitating thing. Her eyes are fire. Her hair is fire. She's all on fire. Everything's on fire. And once that happens, there's not actually a ton of lollygagging from there to the end of the story. There's typical Phoenix talk, right? Like, oh, we must scorch the planet and rid it of its, whatever, the disease that's on it, yada, yada. But this is followed up by a really great line where the Phoenix decides and be better and not be the vulture in this metaphor. And the line that's really awesome is that she says how the world was really saved by the love of a wolf, ultimately, because, had the wolves not picked her up, she would not even be there. But then we next see up in Asgard, and Odin is trying to pick up the Mjolnir hammer, and boom, that's when our Phoenix is all grown up, seemingly. There must be some time jump or something, and is now up in Asgard doing the whole Avengers assemble thing, and she has her pack of fire flaming dogs. It's a pretty dope ending. And yeah, that's the prologue to Enter the Phoenix. I really liked this issue a lot. I love these BC books. I just think they're a lot of fun. I like the whole BC Avengers thing. They picked just such cool characters that are like, oh yeah, they could definitely just like exist back in BC, like Iron Fist and like Black Panther, So I would love to see the BC Avengers get like their own miniseries at some point. Just putting that out there. And so this book actually made me pretty excited for this Enter the Phoenix arc, even though I really don't know how it's going to directly connect, at least with the BC Phoenix. I don't know how she will connect directly. Obviously, the Phoenix Force is a connecting element. But other than that, I don't really know. But all I do know is that Enter the Phoenix covers for these next couple issues are fucking hot. For my number 4 spot this week, I am giving it to a previous number 1 issue, dethroned. No, I'm just kidding. Crossover issue number 2, written by Donny Cates, drawn by Jeff Shaw, and colors by D. Knife. So this comic series is probably, historically, one of the best fucking comic ideas ever. My notes made no coherent sense at this point, so I just kind of had to freeball that one. But I don't know, the gist of it is that comics are real in this world, hence the name crossover in the most literal meta sense. Comics are real, and they've crossed over into our world, or the world in this comic. And now shit is just fucked up beyond belief. Like, heroes and villains, or they warred in this whole city, and this bubble went up around them. And now it's been this whole like life world changing thing. Heroes get out and they get jailed. It's just crazy. And we last issue we met our whole cast of goons, and there's this comic girl, like this just miscellaneous comic character girl who escaped the bubble, and perhaps was utilizing, this was the tease at the end, utilizing the powers of one Superman. And the only reason I say that is because she drew a little, cape guy that had an S on his chest and said, "This was the guy that helped me." And so with all of that, nail biting going on in issue 2, you open the first little page and you see Brian K. Vaughan, the famed Marvel writer, is dead, as well as Chip Zdarsky, Scott Snyder, and Robert Kirkman have all been missing. Hell of a cold open there. But that was a really funny page, right? Like, comics are real, so comic writers are real. And that was, all in good fun. But one thing I begin to notice as you keep reading through this issue is that the narrator is pretty like fourth wall breaking, definitely referencing like the story on a meta level at certain points. And that's just making me think, like, Donnie, is this you? Is this you talking directly to us? There are a couple points throughout this book that I feel like Donnie maybe is speaking from his own perspective. But moving on from that, this issue also has a ton of Easter eggs in it. This was something that I'm pretty sure is kind of like generally accepted, going to be the thing about this series. But even in these first couple pages, you get a few, right? Like on the first or second page, you get the Star Trek ship. I don't know what it's called. I'm unfortunately not a Trekkie. But then you also get some Ninja Turtles, and then later on in the book, you get Ant-Man's helmet up on a shelf, which is really cool. And then even way later, I won't even bury this one, you actually get to see Spawn later in this issue. You only get to see his hands, but you get to see the chain, and you get to see a little bit of the cape. But mainly what this issue does is it sets up a lot of lore, right? So I mentioned this earlier, but there is now a thing where if any comic characters or superheroes or whatever, mainly superheroes, if they escape the bubble, they will be like locked up into this, like, essentially the raft, right? They had a name for it in here, but it's like one of those superhero prisons. It like has this light that depowers them while they're in their cell, all that stuff. Apparently there's one superhero who cannot be depowered and is in this like crazy big ass, like completely closed off, like vacuum sealed cell. And there are also these like camps for comic characters that aren't exactly superheroes. Like I mentioned, that girl earlier who's just a normal girl. There's like internment camps for them now, which is pretty dark and definitely reminiscent of like ICE camps. They didn't make any explicit references, but you can maybe see a little bit of inspiration where Donnie was coming from. But back to this depowerable superhero, he has a mission for, I guess you could say, our antagonist in this book, this fuck named Ryan. In the last issue, he burnt down our main protagonist, who I guess I didn't even run through their names, but our main protagonist, Ellie, she has this friend named Otto. He owned a comic shop, and Ryan, this fuck ass, he burnt down the comic shop with a Molotov cocktail because he was acting a fool. But this depowered superhero has this mission for him, and it's hella ominous, don't get me wrong. And he gives him, and I guess this is all for a lack of a better term, but a depowering bullet, which if you look at the visuals, it's glowing like lime green. I don't know about lime green, but it's glowing. It definitely reminisces a kryptonite shard, right? Because in that depowers Superman. And speaking of Superman, we actually get a little more clarification on the whole like Superman tease at the end of the last issue, near the end of this issue. And I guess the Superman, quote unquote, didn't actually help them get out of the bubble, which is what the girl initially told our main character, Ellie, but might have actually taken her out of those fucked up camps. And so, it's starting to get very like meta here because Ellie, our main, it wants to help this little girl. And she kind of wants to be the hero of the comic, which is, a comic about how heroes of comics are invading this world where comics exist. It's getting very meta. And she plans to take this girl to the camp and reunite her with her parents, I believe. And of course, Otto, our friend, he is sus of just about all of this, and honestly, maybe for the right reasons, because the last panel of this comic is totally nuts. It's this little girl, this little cute girl. She has like the polka dot skin, right, to represent like old, like traditional 60s, 40s comics. She manifests this like fucking, I don't even know, this crazy power, and like I guess like annihilates this rat. You don't really see what happened to it, but you see this rat on the ground, and then you cut away and you look back, and it's like a pile of bones and guts and ash. No idea what happened to it, but her eyes glowed purple. She manifested some kind of power. So maybe Otto is right. I'm nail biting here at this point. But God, this comic, it's just such a joy to read. It's one of those things where as you're reading it, you just feel a ton of excitement, because if you really feel like you never know what the next page is going to be next. And obviously, it's super duper fun to hear reference after reference after reference. And it's giving me some vibes of like Ready Player One, right? That's kind of, I never saw it, but they reference like 100 million video games in it. And is that basically going to be what crossover is? It's like the Ready Player One of comics? Maybe. And our narrator teases in this issue that Ellie and Ryan will inevitably fall in love. And now that Ryan has to head towards the portal, or a bubble, I should say, with this kryptonite bullet, and Ellie wants to head towards the bubble with this comic girl, now they're set in the same direction. So eyebrows raised to that. And this goes without saying, man, any time I get the chance to read some motherfucking Jeff Shaw, I am so happy. I love Jeff Shaw's art. One of the first Kate stories I had ever read was Thanos Wins, so there's always a little soft spot for Jeff Shaw in my heart. But the next issue, holy fuck, Gundam? That's what the comic would suggest, or the cover, like, holy shit. and not only that, but then the girl in this comic asks about Godzilla at one point. Like, what kind of crossovers are we going to get here? Taking that bronze medal this week, I'm giving it to 7 Secrets, issue number 5, written by Tom Taylor, drawn by Danielle Di Niculio, and colors by Walter Biamonte. I remember I used to struggle with those names, and now I don't. Isn't that awesome? But this is kind of becoming a reoccurring top 5 series from Boom Studios, of course. And just with that goddamn beast of a creative team, like those 3 names working on anything together would definitely get my purchase. But we last left off with our secret squad, and with all their secrets in rubble, right? Because the seekers, as they go by, the people who want to seek the secrets, they sought out their like base and fucked their whole base up, and it was this whole war thing. And they attacked all the hideouts. And so now our friends, our secret, the Order, they are on the defensive, and that is kind of where this issue picks up, is them picking up the scraps from the last issue. Kanto, it was injured in the last issue. He's this dude that's always wearing the mask if you're reading this comic. And he's getting medical attention right smack dab in the beginning of this issue. And he still susses me out, I have to say. I remember I said in a few reviews back that he was giving me big like traitor villain vibes, and do not trust him. And I'm still getting those vibes a little bit. I just don't know why they keep showing Kanto so often and in so many strange ways. But, in terms of characters, there's so much to love about this book. Gareth is one of the characters in here, and he is really becoming one of my favorites in this story. Every scene with him in it is just super fun. And I love this scene later after our friends get some medical attention and dish out some drama. They decide that they need to find the one place that none of them will know where it's at, because they think there's a mole in the Order. And they get Gareth, who is the guy. Apparently, this is the thing. He is the guy who keeps secrets from the Order, right? The Order is meant to keep secrets, and he's the guy who keeps secrets from the secret keepers. And he like dives into this whole like underground tunnel, and it comes up into this crazy room and decides, hey, we're all going to this mountain in Sweden. But I'm starting to really love Gareth. Like he gives me really big Armstrong vibes. If you've seen Full Metal Alchemist, it's the mustache, man. He has that mustache. He's also got that squeaky clean bald head, and he's super jacked. But them deciding to go to this Swedish mountain base was, in retrospect, a mistake. It seems as though, I guess, the mole still figured it out, because now all the Seekers ended up knowing that literally all 7 of the secrets, they evacuated all the 7 secrets from all around the world out on its way to this Swedish base. And so they had literally all their eggs in one basket, definitionally. And when the Seekers found that out, they were more than elated and engaged in this fucking crazy assault on this mountain base. Like, this is probably one of the craziest and coolest action scenes so far in this book. But this whole time, Tom Taylor is character building like a fucking badass. Like, there's this scene where you have these 2 secret keepers. I think one of them holds a briefcase. They're going down in like a plane, and the pilot, they're lovers, right? And the pilot is like, go down without me, right? It's this whole like dramatic scene. But by the end of the scene, you like low-key love these people. But then, of course, some trauma has to hit, and most of them get slaughtered by oncoming artillery fire. This is what I'm saying. It's like a totally nuts war scene. Like, this scene at several points approached movie mode. Okay. They end up showing us Amon, our main antagonist here. But for some reason, I really don't know why, but he's like locked up. Like, he has like chains literally around his wrists and neck. But I thought he got away in the last issue. I mean, I guess I don't know. But so he's got his side hoe pretty much doing the whole assault for him. I don't really know who this girl is. I think she maybe has been in the series here and there. But we leave off on a fat motherfucking cliffhanger. There is this door that is guarding this base in the mountain. And they said that it was built to withstand catapults. However, the Seekers bring dozens of tanks with artillery fire. So they do, I mean, not even the Order thinks that they're going to last through that door. And I don't think it's going to either, given the next issue's like teaser, which was secrets revealed, question mark. So whose fucking secret is going to be revealed? Is it going to be all the goddamn secrets? I am very excited for that issue. I love how Tom Taylor, I think it's cool that he consolidated all the secrets into one place, just from like a outside perspective. You know, it just made it really exciting all of a sudden, where it's like, oh shit, now like they're fucked if something happens, and hey, look, they're fucked. And I also really like how fast this story is playing out. And, you know, weirdly enough, that's maybe a critique I would give any other story, but Tom Taylor, he's so masterful with the storytelling that even though everything is progressing really fast, you're just on the edge of your seat, and you're just like, holy shit, the entire time. Like, Seven Secrets is such a great book that you got to be reading it if you aren't. But before I get out of here, I have to just throw one up for the art and the colors in this book. It's just consistently amazing every single issue. You know, even if the story to Seven Secrets was hot fucking doo-doo, I would still probably be buying this book because the art is just that good. Coming in for the silver medal second place issue this week, I'm giving it to Guardians of the Galaxy issue number 9, written by Al Ewing, drawn by Juan Cabal, and colors by Federico Blee. Hold on, actually, I'm going to chug this entire Pepsi really quick. Ugh. Holy shit. Oh, God. Okay, I just really wanted to chug all of that because I didn't want to, take it home or pour it out or anything, but I feel like that's going to have some bad repercussions down the line in this review. But Ewing's Guardian run has truly been a fucking trip. I mean that literally and figuratively sometimes. There are some scenes where they definitely delve into some very psychedelic art styles, but that's what I love about it so much. And I like I said, I've really been just enjoying it so far. It's such a fresh breath of air into the Guardians team, if you ask me. I'm a broken record about this, but I love how it sets itself apart by doing something atypical of the movie's team composition, right? So it's different from the movie team composition. And it also just explores different themes. You know, Al Ewing, fucking famed immortal Hulk writer, of course he's going to take their story in super weird directions. Excuse me, that was the Pepsi. Also, weird thing, I'm, recording this, it's almost 3 a.m. at this point, and I am very sussed out because I keep hearing strange noises all around me. But I'm just gonna keep chugging through the review. But yeah, there might be some choppy edits throughout here if I ever got really frightened mid-sentence. But moving on, issue number 9, something about this series is it always gives you like a little title, and I really like that. And this issue's title is I Shall Make You a Star-Lord. And this issue is kind of about the life, death, limbo, and resurrection of Peter Quill, Star-Lord. If you have not been reading this series for a while, Quill died back in issue, I think, number 2 of this series. And so this comic is kind of, catching us up with what's been going on with him since his death. Because, spoiler, he didn't, technically die. Or he didn't die in, the atheistic sense where you just, kaput and you're dead. But this comic is told in such a unique way, and it depicts each page as a certain stage of Quill's limbo process. I guess that's the only way I really know how to refer to it as, because it's kind of an in-between between death and life, or just someplace else, I guess. And so each page is kind of unique in its own way, so I thought it would be cool to go through each one of them just kind of quickly here. But each page kind of, features this unique paneling of this triangle in the middle, which flips each page. On the first page, the point, I guess, is sitting up, whereas on the next page, it's pointing down. And each page also features a title onto it that alternates. And so for instance, hopping onto the first page here, it's titled First House, the House of Beginnings. Sometimes the meanings of these pages are a little more on the nose, and sometimes they're a little more nuanced. But as for this first page, I mean, it's literally the beginning. It shows Peter Quill getting out of bed from his death. So it's the beginning. And so then on the second page, it is titled Second House, the House of Possessions. And I think that is the case for this one because you can see him grab his gun in this page, which is his only possession at this point. So that one is a tad on the nose as well. And then third page, Third House, the House of Communication. I believe this one is titled that way because Peter Quill walks out here and confronts, I guess, or meets these two individuals and ends up communicating with them and decides to pretty much go on this, journey and join them in this limbo world. And then there's Fourth House, the House of Home. And I think that is the name of this page. That's more so just a panel of Peter Quill introducing himself to these two people by saying, I'm Peter Quill. And I think that's meaning that by him saying that, the House of Home, as in he is accepting that this is his new home, right? We get a time jump, and now we're into the fifth house, the House of Plays. And I think the fifth house, the House of Play. And I think this is the case because here on this page, you can just see Peter kind of swashbuckling, for lack of a better term. He's kicking ass, he's taking names, he's playing around. And then onto the sixth house, the House of Health. This was actually one of the pages I did not really understand. Peter's talking about this really heavy metal, and then he blasts it with his element gun, which has also been a reoccurring, thing throughout this particular issue. But then moving forward into the seventh house, the House of Partnership. I believe this one is the case because he ends up, working in tandem with one of his partners that he's decided to kind of go on this limbo journey with against this fight. And we get a huge 9-year time jump on this page showing that they're still out here doing things. And then we're on to the eighth house, the House of Death and Rebirth. This is a significant page because it shows Peter to say to them that he is willing to accept that this is his new home. So he's given up, essentially, if this is to stick with the metaphor of limbo. He's like given up his earthly tethers and earthly possessions. And then on to the 9th house, the house of ideas. I don't exactly know why this one has that name either, but it shows quite the time jump of a couple hundred years. And then onto the 10th house, the house of life's work. So this page, I mean, this is all flowing linearly, but there's tons of time jumps kind of scattered throughout here. And so on the 9th page, Peter's just sitting there on the floor, doing something, talking to one of these girls he's with. And then he gets blasted. And it's by the Olympic, they refer to it as like Olympus, meaning, I think, the Greek gods, which, if you remember, those are the people that killed him back in issue number 2. And they say, you basically taken shit from us. I don't exactly know what it was that he took from them. Maybe it was their lives, if you want to look at it edgily. But then moving on to the 11th house, the house of community. I believe this one is titled that way because he's just kind of collaborating with his friend in this page. And so it's kind of showing that he has this community to fight against an adversary of his. And then to the last page, the 12th house, the house of endings. And this is actually a pretty, just beautifully drawn page with some wonderful just framing and everything. And Peter's essentially saying that as long as I am here, they will come for me. So I need to go back to my home or my earth, or you could say my realm of life. And he does exactly that. Peter comes back, and throughout this book, there was this reoccurring narration from someone who I'm pretty sure is called the Master of the Sun. And this guy seems to kind of be, in the end here, sanctifying Peter as a quote-unquote Star-Lord and as a quote-unquote Master of the Sun himself. So, perhaps that title could mean new powers for Peter in the future. I'm not really sure. I don't know what the Star-Lord moniker even implied beforehand. But the art here at the end of the book is just absolutely phenomenal. And it does leave us a cliffhanger in kind of a weird spot, I will say. The ending is a little funny, but it's also a little awkward. What happens is Peter, he kind of just plops back down to Earth. And for some reason, Rocket, Raccoon, and Nova are just already right there. And Rocket's like, Peter, holy flark, is that you? And then he says, turn around. And Peter says, why? And turns around and sees a Knoll dragon or a Grundle or a Venom dragon or whatever. So you know what it is, folks. King in motherfucking black. Yeah. I just thought that was a little bit of a strange ending, given that Peter just came back from the dead in like 7 months of, I guess, our time. For some reason, his team was already there. And then not only that, but he was confronted with this like event immediately. So, it was just a little bit of a weird spot, but I'm not super mad at it. Because honestly, all it really does is get me hyped for the next issue. And I just kind of want to see more so how this Peter Quill business is going to keep unfolding. Like, I'm really more looking forward to, his first conversation with Gamora and with the whole squad. But of course, the next issue is going to be King in Black stuff, which, thinking about it, Ewing is writing a lot of King in Black tie-ins for the next few weeks. He's doing, this Guardians of the Galaxy. The next S.W.O.R.D book, S.W.O.R.D issue number 2, is going to be a King in Black tie-in. And as well as he's doing an Immortal Hulk one-shot that's going to be a tie-in as well. So he's really doing a lot. Oh, wait, and how could I forget Liftoff? Liftoff is featured on the front of this cover, as if there weren't enough, titles involved, but it says Liftoff, and the number 4 is really highlighted. And so what the fuck does that mean, Ewing? He literally just keeps setting shit up, and it's driving me nuts. And for that prestigious number 1 spot, holy shit, I am giving it to Venom, issue number 31, written by Donny Cates, drawn by Ibon Coelho, and colors by Jesus Avertov. King in Black is here, and we're all dead or dying at the moment. But particularly Eddie. And that's exactly where this motherfucking comic picks up. I loved this comic. This is an amazing issue, right? Eddie, okay, if you read King in Black 1, I'm spoiling it here, so sorry about that. But King in Black 1, it ends off with Eddie. He gets ripped of his symbiote by Null, and he gets dropped off the Empire State Building. And so when you open up issue number 31, that's literally all this comic is about. This whole comic is Eddie falling. And I make that sound anticlimactic, but it's actually fucking amazing. I thought this clearly was the best issue of the week, and I will get into why. First, we kick off with some of Rex Strickland. If you remember him, he is an OG Venom run character. He was one of the first arc characters, actually, I think first issue. Kate's introduced Rex Strickland. And we get a little bit of monologue from him. I was kind of confused as to when the monologue was taking place in relation to the current events of the book. There seemed to be some Carnage stuff involved. So maybe that means some Null stuff. So that's the thing. I'm not really 100% sure. It's not super relevant to the issue, because in terms of actual like things that happen in this book, there are really only two. This book is pretty simple at the end of the day. One thing is that Null fully assimilates Eddie's symbiote into like his hive, which is very fucking traumatic. I mean, like his symbiote kind of being like, no, I need Eddie. And like his like face morphing into the spiral. Oh my God, that was dark. But then rolling off of that, we get a really cool scene here with some pretty good weight. Dylan, he is in this bunker, right? That's where he left off in King in Black 1. And he's wondering what's up with his father. And so he, with his powers to kind of communicate with all symbiotes, he reaches out to his dad from inside the bunker. And if you know about symbiotes, when you like connect with one of them, they like kind of just understand your location. You like hive mind. You hive mind with them. And so Dylan was attempting to contact Eddie's symbiote, which had just been assimilated by Null. And that was a close ass call, because that almost alerted Null right where Dylan was. Luckily, Eddie's symbiote kicked him like off of the connection right away before Null could see it, but that was a close motherfucking call. And though that's really it. That's all that happens in this issue, other than our friend Eddie falling. This whole issue is the fall. Literally, it's all about like what would that be? Like 75% of the book. Most of the pages are all Eddie falling. And again, I'm not trying to make this sound anticlimactic. These falling sequences are fucking awesome. Not only for the art, like obviously Ibon Coelho has amazing art, but it's also not only for the story, because the monologue that's accompanying this fall scene is also amazing. But to me, it's simply because of the fact that the fall literally is the entire issue. And I guess I'm getting a little meta here, but I'll explain. I thought this was really fucking smart on Donny Cates' part. And here's why. I was wondering, so after I read King in Black 1, I was like, okay, the next issue is a Venom tie-in, right? Obviously, the Venom tie-in is going to take place around Venom specifically. If you remember the Absolute Carnage event, the Venom tie-ins were like basically fucking canon. So that was my instant thought, was like, okay, is it going to be one of those like Eddie is going to get swooped up, and saved off of his Empire State Building fall mid this issue, and then next issue of King in Black, it'll show him like completely somewhere else, and it'll be one of those things of like asterisk Venom 31. But no, they did not go with that. Like Cates took the perspective of, I cannot progress this story too far. And because it would kind of throw off the synchronicity just of the King in Black series in and of itself. And so I love that Donnie took the opportunity to say, fuck it. And he made the fall of Eddie almost symbolic, but he made the fall last this entire issue. That shit was so cool to me. And that's why I'm saying that I loved it on like a meta fucking level. And I realize that, speaking of meta, this is a double Donny Cates week, so that's amazing. But as for the art, it's fucking amazing. Like I said, Ibon Coelho is so good. And it's working these epic falling scenes with these amazing splash pages that are just super awesome, and there's symbiote gunk just everywhere. And the whole time, there's this sense of dread They are flashing to some of the Avengers heroes that are just, they can't fucking deal. It's just such a insane vibe that the King in Black event is bringing. And honestly, one of the most like jarring moments of this whole issue was Eddie actually busted out into a full-on prayer as he was falling, like folded his hands and everything. It was pretty heavy stuff. And honestly, you could say that there's some nuance there because he's praying to God and God is there. God is here. You know, Noel is there. And so that I like that little nuance there. It's just like he's throwing one more out. And of course, he's just saying, make sure my son can, you know, survive and do X, Y, and Z. But then, see, we don't really get too far because the last 2 pages, Eddie gets banged up pretty fucking hard, like scary hard, like very frighteningly hard. He almost gets swooped up by this helicopter, but a dragon takes it out, and the explosion knocks him over into a more, I don't know, I guess like building area, and he hits a bunch of poles and hits the wall, and he is plummeting towards the hood of a car on the very last page, and then you are given a to be continued. Like, Donnie Cates, you goddamn bastard. But like, meaning with all the love, that is the cliffhanger of the fucking year for me. Like, even though I knew, like, yes, even though it literally only progressed Eddie's story about, like, you know, a couple 100 feet or whatever the fuck the fall would be. I mean, I still thought that cliffhanger, and just like I described, like the way that he chose to not progress the story, but still utilize this amazing, cool moment to still bring an amazing issue. Like, this is why I thought this issue was so cool. Like, it totally blew me away. You know, I was expecting it to have limitations. Like I had said, you can't progress the story and all that. But no, Donnie Cates figured out a way to make this issue fucking amazing. So I'm loving King in Black, and I cannot wait for issue number 2. Like, especially now. Oh my God, okay, it's over. It's finally over. The podcast is done. Pack it up, go home. No, I'm kidding. We have one more little segment here, and it's just what's coming out next week. So without further ado, let's just burst through that really quick. We got a fat week coming out next week. We have Batman issue 105. I have been loving the Batman run, so that's very exciting. We have a finale coming next week, Batman's Grave, issue number 12. Gosh, it's crazy to think that that run is finally ending. It feels like it's been going on forever. We're also getting an event follow-up, Death Metal issue number 6. That's gotta be good. Immortal Hulk issue number 41, and a double Immortal Hulk week because we're getting King in Black Immortal Hulk issue number 1. So big Immortal Hulk vibes next week, as well as Iron Man issue number 4 and Rorschach issue number 3, both series that I have been just super duper into, as well as Savage Avengers issue number 16. And hey, another finale that we're getting next week, Superman issue number 28, the end of the Brian Michael Bendis Superman run. Man, that's going to be insane. I love the cover for that issue. Wow, a follow-up to my number 1 issue from a couple weeks ago, Taskmaster issue number 2. I'm super excited for that, as well as Wolverine Black, White, and Blood issue number 2. God damn, I love that fucking series. Speaking of X-Men, we also have X-Force issue number 15, and of course, this is going to be the comic I'm most goddamn excited for. Just take a guess. You probably won't guess it. Blade Runner, okay? But not in issue number 13. No. We're getting a new series, okay? Blade Runner 2029, issue number 1. I'm so pumped. I'm so fucking pumped. We're getting a big old time jump of a couple years at least, and you know, just a new Blade Runner series. I'm excited. My voice is giving out. It's cracking, and the show's quality is aggressively degrading. So it is 3:18 in the morning, and I am not going to take up more of your time. I need to get out of here. I am like having a panic attack left and right because I'm hearing sounds left and right. So I need to pack my shit up and get the fuck out of here. But thank you so much for listening, guys. It has been a blast. I hope I did not sound like I was just like super duper tired, even though I was throughout this episode. Fun fact, I've been up at this point for, what is that, 22 hours in a row, because I woke up at 5 in the morning this morning, and so now it is 3 in the morning. So get it. And let's go get some bedtime for me. But thank you guys for listening. And, you can follow me on all the places that I have mentioned. And your listening means a lot to me. So thank you guys so much. And I will catch you in the next week. Read some comics, why don't you? And I'll see you guys in the next one.